Welcome back to the broadcast. We're sitting here with Jesnaira Baez.
Hi.
How you doing, Jody? Now, Jody's
good.
not your Jody's your kind of your stage name because most people can't pronounce your real name, right?
Yes.
Jesnaira.
Yes.
I can remember that pretty good, right? Jesnaira. But well, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about your comedy. How long you've been doing comedy, and some of your stand-up routine and stuff.
I've been doing comedy for, this will be the beginning of 4 years, and I actually started because my friend dared me.
Dared you?
Yes, he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he had an open mic, and there was a female comic doing comedy, and this guy was like, oh my gosh, she's horrible. And then I spoke out loud, and I was like, at least she's up there.
Right.
And then my friend was like, since you want to talk loud, why don't you come up here?
Okay.
The guy was like, yeah, I want to see how funny you are. And then people started requesting me to come back, and I was just telling stories.
Right.
So it became a addiction.
Cool. Well, now your first day, how nervous were you?
Oh, I was very nervous. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to forget my jokes. I'm going to forget what I was thinking about.
Do you remember any of the jokes the first night?
I remember talking about my name and saying like how people are like, what's your name? And I'm like, Jesnaira. And they're like, Naira. And I'm like, no, it's just Naira. And they're like, Naira. And I'm like, just forget it. My name's Jesnaira, and I hate when people are like, oh my gosh, what's your name? I'm like, Jesnaira. And they're like, Naira? And I'm like, no, Jesnaira. And they're like, I know I said Naira. I'm like, just forget it. Just forget it. I think now I'm starting to go more into personal experiences and who I am as a person. Like before I would talk about stuff in general and politics and stuff going on around, you know, in the news. But now I'm touching on my experiences. My personal experiences and stuff.
And it's also the spin you put on it, right? Like what happens to you happens to everybody, but it's just the way you see it is really what makes a difference. And you know, it's through your eyes, your perspective of all the any difficult problem you might have or something like that. When you get up there on stage, how do you prepare? Like not necessarily just talking about a story, but how do you visually prepare to get up on stage? Is there a routine you follow? Not really, because the crowd could be different. I guess it's just looking at your crowd and just expressing to them who you are as a person, you know, and just being you. And that's how you connect with them. You can't go up there being fake and, you know? Yeah. So when you bring them into your world, then that's where the connection is. So when you're on stage, that's your world. And okay, so you're bringing them in. How do you handle hecklers?
Sometimes I just ignore them, but if they get a little too much, then I will address them. Yeah. But then I'll go back into my routine because people did pay to see a show, and it's like I'm not gonna waste my time, my stage time, trying to address you for acting ignorant. Yeah. My name's Jesnaira. They call me Jody. And I hate when people are like, oh my gosh, what's your name? I'm like, Jesnaira. They're like, is there something funny, sir? Oh. She was trying to give me heads in public. I told her no. Okay. I think you want to be part of the show. I love threesomes. I'm not gonna have a threesome with you. That's disgusting. Okay. Anyways, I mean, people pay to see a show, not to see you. But so back to the jokes, the real jokes.
In your routine, you mentioned springtime is a time for relationships, right?
Yeah.
Tell us more about your thoughts about that.
Well, like, you know, during the winter time, that's when guys want to cuddle and find their cuddle buddy and baby, I love you. But in the spring, that's when the hoes come out. Then they want to find the hoes.
You know, and also people, you know, they're all comfortable around Christmas time too, right? Yeah. And after Christmas time, you're like, oh, okay, what else is out there, right?
Something new.
It's like the end, right? The end and the beginning of the next year.
Yeah.
You mentioned in your routine, you talk to guys. You got to talk to guys with sports terminology. When did you figure that out, and how does that go for you?
Like, I realized when you sit down and tell the guy we need to talk, they're like, oh God. But guys love sports. Right. So when you talk to them in sports terms, they're like, I get it, baby, I get it. I realized how you gotta talk to guys. You gotta talk to them in sports terms. So instead of hitting them, you gotta be like, you know what? You got a 2-minute warning before I post up and I steal off your ass.
And then he'll be like, babe, what's up? You've been ejected. No more touchdowns, baby.
Do you find guy audiences are different than female audiences?
I think if you talk about stuff, when you talk about personal experiences, I think women and men relate to you regardless. Because you're telling the truth. You're telling real life stuff that goes on.
Did you ever have it where there was more males or more females in the crowd and you had to adjust your humor towards that?
Well, I thought, you know, being an all male, I was like, oh God, it's all males. They're going to want me to talk dirty. They expect, but just being myself, I still was able to connect with them because I was giving them insight on how women think. So it still worked.
That's cool. And then one final thing, you mentioned how you mentioned kids singing. Tell us more about what you thought, how you came up with that observation.
I work with kids, and that was actually a true story. Like this little boy, he's saying, please don't kill, because I told him if he could work on his work, and he's like, please don't kill my vibe. And he just gave me that idea, and I was like, how could I incorporate everyday songs with speaking to kids? Because kids are so influenced by music. That if you sing a song to them, then they understand you better than, can you please do this? Can you please do that?
You can't talk to kids normal. Like, they can't be like, can you do this? Can you do that? You have to sing songs and they'll sing songs back to you. For example, these little kids were in the corner. And I was like, what are they doing? This little kid was like, I'm reloaded. And I'm like, put the crayons back. Tell your mama to buy you some. And then this other kid was like, please don't kill my vibe. Please don't kill my vibe. I was like, are you serious right now? So I told this little girl, I was like, can you get in line? She's like, hold up, wait a minute. And I was like, see, that's the shit I don't like. Then I had to pop a molly, and I was like, woo.
What are your plans for later on this year? Anything happening?
I'm going to be traveling.
Okay.
And hitting up some shows out of town. And just, you know, I want to build my fan base in Chicago because that's your real support, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm going to be traveling and just working on getting my name and my brand known.
Oh, great. That's cool. Yeah, and then with traveling, there's a whole bunch of other stories you could tell.
It's a wake, like a lot of Chicago comics just do Chicago comedy, but when you travel, it's totally different. You have to be able to connect with audiences in different states, and stuff that goes on in Chicago is not happening in Cleveland and stuff like that. So it helps you grow as a comic too.
Cool. All right, great. Well, thanks for stopping by the broadcast.